Okay, well that went pretty good. It's set up overnight. This is the black epoxy primer coat, PPG. So really setting up nice. They recommend this to set up for a full week before sanding. You can see some of the ghost marks of the bodywork underneath, but actually our lines look pretty good. So I think when we get sanding it, we're going to be real close. I think what we're trying to get at is in this stage, your rough underlying bodywork. It's that fender that was a problem. You sight down it, actually looks pretty good. You really want to try and get the rough bodywork as close as you can get it. You want to try and be about 95% there before this goes on. So by doing so, you can see, sight down that edge pretty close. But when this cures up, we had our bodywork at 80 grit. So primer coat goes down and grabs the bare metal at 80 grit, which is a good bite. You don't want to get too slick with that. There's better traction the rougher it is. But if you're too rough, then of course you're going to have stuff to fill in later. But on this coat here, we're going to sand it down with a 150, and we're going to be real light with the sanding block. So we're kind of done planing it down with the long board hard back sanders. And from now on, it'll be smaller, real light touch block sanding with the 150 grit. We're just barely gonna break the finish, and that'll expose our high and low, any kind of deviations that might be in there. So what we've done in here with the primer is we've got the areas that are difficult to get to because you want to spray those. It's hard to get up in there with, even though I want to do a POR 15 on some of these areas, it's going to be real difficult to get in there with a paintbrush. And as crazy as that sounds, paintbrush POR 15 is just a crazy product. Really, really, really tough as nails, and perfect for what it needs. So a little bit what this video series is going to be about is how to do like a super high quality restoration out of your house. So we're limited on space, we're limited on timing because you can't work on it full time, and so you have to be able to do the project in sections where you can take a break and then go back to it and pick up where you left off. It'd be nice to tear it all down one shot, strip it complete, sandblast it complete, paint it complete, and then put it back together. But it's just not possible when you're trying to do it single pair of hands. You got limited space and all that. So also we've got it on wheel still, and with this car we're going to do 100% restoration. So everything will be addressed, but not in one fell swoop. So what I'm doing now is utilizing the wheels as kind of a dolly. So keeping it here gives us a good working height to do the body work and the body panels. And then also it allows me to move it in and out of the carport to clean up the mess, hose down the driveway, just keep it real clean. You really want to try and keep your projects clean throughout this stage. It's such a messy thing. I think the beginning of this, when Dad and I were stripping it down, oh my God, it's just horribly messy, and can be very intimidating with as ugly as it gets. But as you can see, we're starting to make some progress. So the next stage then is we're going to catch up the door panels, the deck lid, and when my new hood comes in, it's coming over from Germany, we'll get all those caught up in the same stage, body worked, get the PPG on there, and then we're going to go ahead and fit them. I've done a rough fitment already in bare metal, but when we start sanding this, we want to make sure that all our seams our door seams coming down here, and door gaps. All these kind of areas right here are very important. You put that final paint on there, there's no going back. You want to make sure you do all this work before you get the final paint. Anything's going to show up here, and then if you take it out here, it's just going to get easier and easier to refine it and get that real nice finish that we want. Also, I showed you this on the last go around. These areas here are very difficult to sandblast in this position. So what's going to happen? We're going to mask this area now that we got some sealer down. We're going to mask it off. When we roll the car over, we're going to be able to sandblast that in there because that's quite deep. If you try to do it now, it's just going to bounce off the bottom, fill up with sand, and you won't be able to see what you're doing, and you won't be able to do a good job. But if it's flipped upside down or turned sideways, then the sand falls and cleans itself out as you're blasting, so you can get a real nice job. So unfortunately, we don't have a dolly to flip it upside down right now, so that'll have to wait until later. This area right here, underneath where the suspension bolts on, a little bit rusted out, so we are going to cut that out. We'll cut it right out at the body line. You can see where we just want our inner fender to go down to it, and then most of that will get cut away and a new piece welded back in. I've got the factory Porsche replacement part and also a battery tray, so this will be nice and sound and very clean when we get it done. Also, this front lip here had a little bit of rust where the weather stripping was in. We're going to pull that off of there and weld on a new lip for the rubber. And then all this down here, this is all going to get blasted and undercoated properly. We're going to do an undercoat. Actually, we're going to POR 15, then we're going to do a texturized undercoat, and then we're going to do a clear coat on top of that. That's going to be the surface for everything underneath. It's going to be the surface for everything in here. It's going to be the surface for the engine compartment and the interior, except the interior, we're not going to do a clear coat. We're going to just do the POR 15, and then we're going to dynamat everything. This still will have to be sandblasted, but again, because it's on the floor, when we turn this car on its side, that's going to be the time to sandblast. It'll be much easier. Everything falls to the ground, and you can control it better. Also, we're using 80 grit glass bead, which is a good media. It's safe media, and also it doesn't damage the metal. It does a real nice job of getting down into small places, getting any rust particles out without actually destroying your metal. Some of the media can be a little bit too aggressive and do some damage, and we want to try and minimize that. So for now, this is just acting like a dolly, but we're probably another month and a half away before we pull the bottom end out and set this thing up on a rotisserie and finish her off. But we'll keep you up on that. I think what else we want to cover here at this stage. I'll get some more video when we get the door panels on and see how those all line up. Here's our product. PPG. Very expensive stuff, but really an awesome product. Sprays good. Main thing is when you put this on, that your surface is clean. I mean, we're talking clean. You wipe a rag on that with a solvent, you don't want to see anything on that rag before this goes down. I've had acetone, lacquer thinner, and a painting prep, 3 different solvents to prepare the surface. The acetone and lacquer thinner, you don't want to be wiping on your Bondo at this stage because it's a little bit too harsh. So your acetones and lacquer thinners are good for the metal. It gets down deep and pulls out any oils or anything that might be in there. And then the Pre, you can, which is an Eastwood product, works really good. It pulls it out of, pulls all the soils out of the Bondo and any kind of residues left on the body. So I probably went around this car 4 times with solvents before I actually shot it and got some clean rags out of it. Let's see the underneath is still looking pretty ratty, but that's all coming out of there. Get that out of there pretty soon. A little bit more body work to do though. It's really important when you get to this stage, especially if you're doing it yourself, to just go slow. I mean, once you start pulling paint off the car, you want to move pretty quickly because you're in a bare metal situation and you may be susceptible to rust. Luckily, I'm out here in the desert, so our humidity isn't so bad, but once you pull that paint off, you got to move pretty quick to get primer on it. Once you get the primer on it, you want each coat, each layer, everything you do for bodywork to dry out, cure, and shrink. Hopefully, no more Bondo has to go on this at this stage. Probably just light block sand it, exposing our highs and lows, and we'll be using a finishing glaze putty to take up any deviations, and then just lightly block that down. And then we will put our K36, which is our high built primer, also PPG. We'll start building that up, and every layer we put on there, we should be 1% closer, so 95%. Next process, 94% or 96%. Another layer, 93%, and so on until we finally get 100% where we want to go with it. So that's it for now. Quite a bit of work to get here. It's an unbelievable amount of labor. I can see why these guys get so much money to restore a car. It's just an incredible amount of work in the products. That PPG epoxy is almost $400 a gallon just to do this one process. So you want to be real careful you don't have any waste, and use it carefully. There was a time when these old cars were just old cars, basically old junk cars, but now they're kind of like treasure. It's like an archaeological find. Wear white gloves and be very careful with each little piece. So there it is. I will keep you up on the next post. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.